It's very hard to have a speech in such an atmosphere, believe me. I never feel anything like that. Mr. Prime Minister, Speaker Kinsella, Speaker Scheer, honorable members of the Senate and House of Commons, honorable members of the diplomatic community, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, шановні друзі, дорогі українці. It is a deeply felt honor to address this distinguished legislative body. I must thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for inviting me to come to Canada, Speaker Kinsella, and Speaker Scheer for giving me such an outstanding opportunity to address the Canadian Parliament. I see this as a tribute to my country and the Ukrainian people and an expression of the unique, distinctive partnership which our both nations enjoys. C'est un grand honneur pour moi de tenir le discours dans le Parlement du Canada. Let me also just once use the third official language of Canada, Ukrainian. Дуже дякую вам за цю честь, дорогі друзі, дорогі співвітчизники, високодостойна українська громада. To be frank with you, I feel very much at home with you here today in a country that are very close to Ukraine, not distantly, but through our hearts and through the common idea. Indeed, Canada has become home for so many Ukrainians. The sense that the early Ukrainian settlers who came here more than a century ago. In 1892, a century before Canada was the first to recognize Ukraine's independence, the first Ukrainian immigrants, Ivan Pilipiv and Vasil Yeleniak, arrived. They launched further numerous Ukrainian immigration to the Pacific coast, setting across the woods and prairies of Canada. The Ukrainian community has easily integrated into Canadian society. They built railways in towns, schools and churches, heroically fought against the Nazis during the World War II, contributed to the Canadian economy and culture. Later, the sons and daughters of farmers became a prominent member of the Canadian society. Businessmen, artists, scientists, athletes, and politicians. One of them, Ramon Hnatišin, became a Governor General of Canada. We all the time remember his name. And the list is long and impressive. The premiers of the Saskatchewan and Manitoba, Roy Romanov and Gary Filmon, Senators Reinal Andrinchuk and David Kachuk, James Bajan and William Kirilluk, and the hockey superstars Terry Savchuk and Wayne Gretzky, and also a woman astronaut, Dr. Roberta Bondar. We highly praise for the great Ukrainian-Canadian sculptor Leah Moll, who crafted one of the best Taras Shevchenko monuments in the world in Washington, D.C. We all the time remember that. And if I continue with the list, we will run out of time of this session, believe me. Today, the Ukrainian-Canadian community is over 1 million people. It is the strong. Now it's demonstrated, it's consolidated. It's preserved the language of their homeland, faith and tradition. Ukraine has always felt proud of the Ukrainian Canadians and grateful for their lasting support. І від імені українського народу я дуже дякую вам дорогі брати і сестри, за допомогу Україні. However, it's not only the history that bonds us, but also the shared values that make Canada and Ukraine an integral part of the global family of democracies. Today, Ukraine pays a very high price for defending what we believe in: democracy and freedom. To choose our own future. For more than 2 decades, we proudly stated that Ukraine gained its independence without shedding a single drop of the blood. Now it's not true anymore, because now is the real fight for our independence and the real price we should pay for that. Today, Ukraine is bleeding for its independence and territorial integrity. And Governor General of Canada, Ramon Hnatyshin, in his speech at the Ukrainian Parliament in 1992, just 1 year after Ukrainian independence, stated, "We must not forget the people's suffering which we are witnessing." That day, he spoke to brave Ukrainian and Canadian soldiers who kept the peace across the world in conflict and unrest zone. These words remain so true as never before now. Today, thousands of brave Ukrainian men and women are sacrificing their lives for the right to live in the way they choose to on their land, under the blue and golden colors of Ukrainian flag, colors which are so dear to many Canadian Ukrainians. In these dark days, we feel strong support of you. Thank you very much for that. It is a time we see our friends in our need, and there is no other way to put in: Canada is a friend indeed. As a Commander-in-Chief, as a Ukrainian, and as a father of soldier, I thank Canada for each life that is being saved today in the Ukrainian Donbass by bulletproof vest or helmet you gave to us. Once again, I thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, and your government, to the opposition, to the Canadian parliamentarians and senators, all Canadian and fellow Ukrainian, for standing tall and making your voice heard, for the helping financially with the technical assistance, with a non-lethal military aid, for supporting us in international fora such as UN, NATO, or G7. This is very valuable for us. I would like to use this great opportunity to thank all Canadian parliamentarians for their continuous support of Ukraine, especially for the emergency debate in the House of Commons during critical period of the Maidan revolution and human dignity. We hear your voice, and this voice was very important for us. And our great achievement and our victory is happened because of your support. Thank you very much indeed. For the work of the House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee on Ukraine, for the election observation mission, which helped to ensure that the will of Ukrainian people was respected. 500 observers, the biggest ever mission come on presidential election, to confirm that that was a true, free, and fair. It helped us to establish the new authority in Ukraine. Thank you, and we are waiting for your mission on the 26th of October, on the parliamentary election, because we are decisive to demonstrate that this election also should be free and fair. Very pro-democratic. For the many visits by the parliamentarians and ministers, for your visit, Mr. Prime Minister, on inauguration ceremony, the same way how Canada recognized our independence, the same way you recognize the results of the presidential election. That was crucially important for us. In the difficult time, all the time, you are with us. And Also, I want to thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs, John Baird, for his support to Ukraine during the Maidan, and especially I have a whole long list of thanks, believe me, from all of the hearts. My heart, thank you very much. We really feel the strong support of Canadians, not only in difficult times, but I'm sure when we will have a peace, when we will stop the war, by integrated and coordinated efforts of all the nations of the world, the Canada help us to keep the world united. The Canada can help us to demonstrate the whole world the strong solidarity with Ukraine. Thank you very much, Canada. Without this support provided by the government in Canada, by all parliamentarians, and by the Ukrainian Canadians community, under the leadership of Ukrainian Canadian Congress, it would be much harder for Ukraine to face a challenge of today. No other leaders or nation, no one, I mean it, with the possible exception of the Poland, was so straightforward and earnest when sending a signal across the world to Russians and the rest of the world that fighting a nation which is trying to chart its own path is just conceptually wrong. That's arming rebels with advanced anti-aircraft missile, providing them with the operator, intelligence, and flight data. Those who were equipped, trained, and financed by Russia executed a terror attack, shooting down the civilian MH17. The flight killing 298 innocent lives of the Netherlands, Malaysia, Australia, many other nations, including the Canadian citizen Andrzej Angel. And I think that the war on the east of Ukraine is a war against the terror, our common war. I have no doubt with that. With your support, and with the support of the global community, we will win this struggle. And we will fulfill the dreams of many Ukrainians in our homeland across the world. Ukraine will be strong and independent, very important, European nation. Yesterday was one of the most important days in the history of Ukraine. The Verkhovna Rada ratified Ukraine-European Union Association Agreement. Do you know what is my feeling when I yesterday standing in front of the Ukrainian parliament presenting this association agreement, coordinated and synchronized with the European Parliament? That was the last farewell from Ukraine to the Soviet Union. That was a Rubicon Ukraine crossed, and we never ever returned back to our awful past. I strongly believe that our values, our freedom, our democracy, our European future, including membership perspective, is possible and reachable for the Ukrainian nation. Why? Because Ukrainian nation is past one of the most important tests during the last 5 months, and maybe pay one of the most important price for being European. And that's why we demand providing reform, defending democracy, defending freedom, the membership perspective in the European Union. And implementation of the agreement will not only harmonize Ukraine's trade and custom rules with European Union standards, but it will help my country to draw closer to democratic norms and market-oriented economy. At the NATO Wealth Summit, I have declared my country's desire to move closer with NATO and gaining the status of the major non-NATO ally. I really count on your support on that. All allies strongly condemn Russia's aggression on Ukraine, illegal annexation of Crimea, and stand ready to support territorial integrity and sovereignty of Ukraine within the international recognized border, in the way like it is strongly doing by Canadian government, Canadian Prime Minister, and Canadian people. I'm thankful to Canada. Your country was one of the soundest supporters of Ukraine at the summit, and they're committed to provide more than $1 million to the NATO Trust Fund. It will help Ukraine to build its command, control, and communication and computer capability. Dear friends, let's look beyond the crisis and war. Let's think how we enhance the special partnership between the Ukraine and Canada. This is why I'm here. I'm convinced that we need to pay more attention to the bilateral cooperation in such a sphere as energy, trade, investment, information, airspace, and many other technologies. In cooperation with Canada, we hope to accomplish the ambitious project consolidating Ukraine's informational space by launching the telecommunications satellite built by Canadian company MDA. We will be finally able to provide all our regions with reliable and trustworthy information, as well as to export telecommunication services. There should be more projects like this. I hope that both negotiation teams translated our firm signal, Prime Minister and mine, and the next time we will see each other, we will have Ukraine-Canada free trade agreement to sign. Having said that, I cannot help but mentioning one particular program that played a significant role in enhancing our people-to-people contact. I talk about the Canadian-Ukrainian Parliamentary Program. During the years of independence, CUPP has hosted over the thousands of students from Ukraine who were able to work as interns right here to the Canadian Parliament and help us to build Ukrainian democracy. Welcome back, dear colleagues. I also want to thank the Canadian Parliament and Ukrainian diaspora for helping us to breed the new generation of the new Ukrainian democratic and free leaders. Mr. Prime Minister, I remember you mentioned that Canada is probably the most Ukrainian nation outside of Ukraine itself. You know what? This is absolutely true. Let me reciprocate. There are great European nations which stood at the source of foundation of modern Canada. Canada has friends all over the globe, and the closest one next to it. However, I doubt that you will find another nation which could tell so sincerely what I am telling about you. Ukraine is probably the most Canadian nation after the Canada itself. And exactly this feeling I feel today during my meeting with many Canadians. Thank you for all of that. Let me refer to the Winston Churchill words, who truly loved your country and visited it 7 times from 1900 to 1954. We recall him as a brave leader who confronted the Nazi aggression with courage. In summer 1929, he wrote from Canada to his wife, "Darling, I am greatly attracted to this country. I am profoundly touched, and I am intent to devote my strength to interpreting Canada to our people." I have the same feeling, believe me. Unfortunately, I won't write these words to my wife, since she sits here with me today. I will simply tell her these words. And again, please let me quote Churchill once again. "I love coming to Canada. God bless your country." Thank you very much indeed. Merci. Дякую. І слава Україні.